Welcome back. Now, as promised earlier, and tonight as the nation reflects on the events of June 25th, 2024, and the questions they raised, tonight we examine the state of justice, accountability, democracy in Kenya, and what that means for the country's future. I'm now joined by Frida Onduso, who's the Secretary General for Linda Mwananchi Youth League, Dr. Monase Ahmed, human rights activist, Kariuki Ngunjiri, National Youth Leader, UDA, Kip Korir Brian, Youth Affairs, UDA, and Anthony Mureithi, political strategist. Ladies and gentlemen, karibuni sana. I'd like to pose a question to each and every one of you. Now, June 25th, 2024 became a defining moment for many young Kenyans. 2 years later, what does that day represent to you? Let's start with you.
Well, what began as a moment of reflection for the country and to have a reawakening of national conscience turned into something different from what many Kenyans would have expected, into a monster that has gotten this country far way below. And it is unfortunate that tonight, as we speak, 2 years ago, we had to lose so many lives out of a process that I personally think needed to add value to the discussions on issues of tax and issues of how the country can sustain itself and how to raise money. That is not a justification at all for such a huge calamity to this country. And it is why this evening I can say there is nothing to smile about when I hear people say that they want to take advantage of the remembrance of the Gen Zs and try to draw political capital out of it. Anyone who is asking young Kenyans again to perform political assignments tomorrow is asking them to go to the streets so that they can act on their selfish political agendas. And this is akin to dancing on the graves of those that we lost. Commemoration of the Gen Zs cannot be substituted with protest. It cannot be justified that we have politicians who want to take advantage of whatever the unfortunate circumstance. And today, from the United Democratic Alliance Party, first of all, I have led the young people in paying tribute to the many who were affected by these clashes. And it was unfortunate that the young people found themselves in circumstances of war. This is a mistake that we will never want to repeat again. And it's also another moment that I want to congratulate His Excellency the President for acknowledging that mistakes since 2013 have happened. And while it is not possible to replace lives that have been lost, there has been efforts by the government to at least try to bring some sort of relief and to say sorry to the families that were affected by these clashes. We must never again slide back, and we must never go back to that place.
All right, I hear you. Thank you very much. Frida, what does June 24th, 2024 represent to you?
June 2024, to me, when I hear that date, I hear someone that was taken from Parliament building, a student, a JQuat. They got lost like one of those disappearances and then turned up in a dam. According to the pathologist, they didn't even bother to kill him before they threw him in the dam. just threw him there to suffocate and choke and die. I remember Eric Shieni. I remember Rex Masai. I remember a child, 12 years old, Kennedy Onyango. He was shot in Ongata Rongai. 12 years. He barely even knew the meaning of democracy. When I hear the protest and when I hear commemoration, all that goes on in my mind is not even whether or not there's a politician involved. It is such a suspicious way to look at it when you hear protest and you hear this is a political assignment. To me, my first instinct is patriotism. My first instinct is political accountability. And my first instinct when I hear June 24 and the commemoration of protest, it is not that, oh my God, they are going to come on the streets and fight us. No. What I hear when I hear these things is we need to have a conversation about why it even exists in the first place. So it's only someone that is guilty of something that would be jumpy when that date is mentioned. There's a lot of fear within the government quarters that people are going to protest. The meaning of protest is to say no. And protest doesn't always come with violent connotations. I don't know why there is a deliberate effort to associate violence with the name protest, commemorate. And we have seen governments try to censure language so that this language, if we give a different language, a different title to what is happening here, we can then assign guilt or accusations to a group of people so that we can be able to avoid accountability. June 25th, 2024 is a day when this country should be able to sit down and be shaken. For me, I feel fear when I hear that day. It should be a date for shame. We should bow our heads when we hear that day and ask, oh my God, how did we get here? Not say, there's someone that is going to come here and shame on anyone that tries to associate this thing with political currency. It only points to one thing, and that is guilt.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I hear you. Manasseh Ahmed, what lessons should the country have learned from those events?
To begin, I think it's a very hurtful day. It's a day of deep pain, of deep rage. Kenyans were asking for jobs, were asking for dignity, were asking for better futures, and they received bullets and tear gas. Bullets to the head, nonetheless. Nothing that was a tactic to, control what was a very peaceful protest. And the only monster that has been created out of that was the monster of the state that has continued to be able to reign with impunity. It's been 2 years. Mama Rex, Mama Kennedy, last year they wanted to go lay flowers where their children were shot. We had roses. They were wearing T-shirts that said Mama Ya Shuja. They wanted to walk along the street and lay flowers where their children were murdered by the state for expressing and utilizing their constitutional right to protest. So the only rights that have been violated here is the right to life, the extrajudicial killings, the chain of command that ordered the killings, those who armed the policemen, those who are covering up all of the crime that has been committed. And to this day, any effort of trying to appease them through compensation cannot replace accountability. We're still murdering, Kenyans are still being murdered in the streets. If you look at the finance bill, the Ebola protest. So this government has no shame. And the only political organizing, I think it's escalating because the political class, UDA at the helm, among others, are utilizing this opportunity to organize violence. The organized goons that walk hand in hand with the police. There's not been a single protest. There's not been a single arrest. So there's zero accountability. And until there's any form of accountability for all of the laws that were violated on that day and continue to be violated in Kenya, there will not be rest. We will not stop talking because they deserve accountability and justice. And they deserve to be honored and will continue to do that. Our country changed forever that day, because the majority of the country, more than half of the counties, came out and collectively declared that Ruto's actually unfit to lead us. And that was a joint collective decision. So our country will never be the same. People will fight for the freedoms, the rights that are being taken away from us, that have been long fought for. What we should learn is a government should not be afraid of its people, should not be afraid of them raising their voices, raising their flowers, and raising their flags. And we are also not afraid either. So we'll continue.
Thank you very much. Keep going, Brian. Let me come to you. Was June 25th, 2024, a protest, a movement, or the beginning of a new political culture?
In my opinion, I would say it was a beginning of a new political culture, because it really measured the extent at which our constitution enshrines the right for picket demonstration and where the people can come out and agitate for their issues. And for me, I will say practically that in that day, it really gave us an insight of how a good movement can be again being fretted with the people who have ill motive of destroying property, causing havoc, and even vandalizing the property of other Kenyans. So sometimes we need to ask ourselves the very eminent question when it comes to how we demonstrate ourselves. If we are going to street, why do we have to get ourselves in a situation where the police, the country citizens, where they have to close their businesses, where the police has to come and confront the people? But at the same time, it has given birth to many things that we are seeing at the moment. And that culture has really shifted. And to an extent whereby the president came with a panel of the victim compensation, and whereby he has acknowledged since the time immemorial, majorly between from 2013, 2017, 2022, 2024, on how the people who have been losing properties, the one who lost lives, and for the people who even, by any chance, lost their life in an accidental way, to be compensated in a manner that is very reasonable. That acknowledgement itself is to accept that these countries are moving in the right direction. And by that issue is to pointing out that issue that are happening in our ways, that even the police who managed or by any chance find themselves shooting a protester in a way that is not allowed in the Constitution, they should also be handled. It's not allowed. You get the point? Let me give you, there's a justifiable means of using the ammunition, and that is very obvious. And those things are there in the law of the enforcement. That is not that mean that anybody come to street must be shot. No, that is not it. But in that case where people were vandalizing properties, people were putting themselves in a situation they are robbing others people properties. Those does mean that they are crossing the boundaries that will end up even being arrested. And some point, for those who threaten the life of the Kenyan police and officers there, they end up even putting themselves in a situation that is not exempted from violating the Constitution. So for me, it was a reflecting moment, and is a moment that we as young people, we must be asking ourselves, any moment we talk about the issues of fighting for our rights, what exactly when we go out there for the street, what exactly are we trying to communicate? Does it mean that other people's business must be shut? Does it mean that one must lose life to make a meaning? Does it mean that must tear gas be dropped so that it can be said the demonstration was successful and impactful on that day that they demonstrated? So for me, it's a two-way view, but at the same time, we must also ensure that this country remain unified and we protect the life of each and every Kenyan.
Thank you very much. Frida, you wanted to say something before I come to you?
Yes. First of all, they shouldn't even tell us about compensation as if it's a new thing. It's not a new thing. They want to make it look like William Samoei Ruto is full of clemency and he has discovered this new grand thing to fix a situation that has been long-standing, and now we should all give him a standing ovation for throwing 2 billion at a problem that is deeper than just a financial situation. So IPOA was formed in 2011, and it was mostly to deal with these issues of abuses of victims of police brutality in protest, and even way before that. Victims have been compensated. The only difference is that now Ruto has a higher bill because, again, he has more indiscipline when it comes to how he handles protesters. So having 2 billion assigned to compensation is not a sign of good governance. It is just a sign of a government that needs to solve that problem more often, and that is why they have such a huge budget, and it's a budget that can be avoided by simply respecting the rule of law. It's not too much to ask for. And again, he has spoken about a protester behavior. The truth of the matter is the country cannot be fooled. We saw videos of young men and women. They were Gen Zs, very young ones, and it was a very iconic moment. Do you remember that video when there was a woman, a lady police, and she was so scared in the midst of protesters, and they were saying, "Acha mama pite, wacha mama." It was a moment, it was sending chills in people because the Gen Zs made it very clear, we are not here to destroy property. I personally saw Gen Zs offering bread and water to policemen, and wanawambia, kunyweni bana muendelee kutuchunga. And then they want to now inject goons into the situation and confuse them with protesters that were literally guarding policemen. I saw protesters personally. It's not a secret. It's in the public domain. Protesters were saying, tafadhali, msiguze mama, msifanye. I saw a protester telling policemen, "Nyi watu kwa nini mnafanya hivi? Hata nyinyi tunawatibu." Do you remember that iconic video?
Yes.
Wanasema, "Hata nyinyi tunawatibu bana." Alafu hiyo polisi anamwambia, "Enda na mtaokota wengine we." So it's a very, they want to sell a narrative that we will not accept because they are doing it before tomorrow, so that when the goons come in, now that the lines are blurred. But it is very clear who profits the most from goonism. That is the biggest question.
I want to say,
right? And it's definitely not the
I want to ask already a question. How should compensation of justice and justice complement each other?
Thank you for that wonderful question. I think the first and most important thing, first of all, compensation is an acceptance of guilt. And before we get to that compensation, then we need to find out who bears the greatest responsibility for what is being compensated for. Because if we do not do that, and if justice is not served, then we are going to set a very dangerous precedent in this country, that in any other successive government, that you can simply say, kill them and pay them. And at this juncture, I'd love to say something that the President, William Ruto, once said when he was in Bomas of Kenya and all guns were on him. He said, right now the shoe fits well because it's on the other side. Tomorrow, the same shoe will shift to the other side. As a country, we need to come to a point where we lay responsibility and we lay blame where it is and where it lies. What happened in June 2024 on the 25th was a very sad moment in this country, because we had the citizens of this country across all ages, across all demographics, genders, saying we need to have a conversation around a finance bill. And they first of all, before they went to demonstrate, they asked for that. Can we have a conversation around this? Can we have the government coming down to the grassroots and having a conversation? Because there are issues in this bill that we do not understand. And they were met with ridicule and mockery, and they were told, you do not know these things, and these things will pass. If at that time the government said, okay, let us have a conversation around this, and send all the members of parliament to their constituencies to explain this bill in its totality, around the grey areas to its people, we would not be in this time and in this moment that we are in right now. It is sad that young lives were lost. It is sad that today Mama Rex is still mourning the son. It is actually even more sad that to date, this Rex case is still an inquiry, that the government is saying we cannot verify who shot him, yet there's video footage of who did it. So as a country, we need to call ourselves into a meeting and ask ourselves, do we want to continue this way, or do we want to have a conversation, an honest, brutal conversation, where government says what we did was wrong, and this, can I call it bourgeois attitude that it has towards its people needs to end. Because today, it is William Ruto. Tomorrow we shall have another mad dictator sitting on that seat. And he will say, when June 2024 comes, then don't only send police with mere guns, send bulldozers and canisters to them. Is that where we want to get to a country? And as I finish, I'll say this. Mm-hmm. This, I think, will be the third commemoration. Hasn't government realized that for every police officer you send to the streets, the Gen Zs in this country can send 10 people for every one police? At what point does the government say we are outnumbered by these young people and let's have a conversation? For an MP to stand and say, kesho ikifika ni shwa, shwa. I mean, come on. Really, man? Is that where we are as a country?
I have a question for you. Yeah, beyond compensation, what other necessary steps should be put in place for national healing?
Yes, first, can I first respond to my two sisters here? Because
Yes,
they adversely mentioned the president, His Excellency President William Ruto, and the UDA party. First of all, it is wrong for them to try and create an impression that UDA or the UDA leadership is in cohort with goons to perform any political assignments in this country. That is misleading. It's a lie, and we cannot accept for Kenyans to be misled. That is one.
You don't
Number
have
two,
to accept it. It's just the truth.
Number two,
Can the head of state
in a country, can I
Shoot them in the leg.
Let him finish.
Shasha.
Let him finish.
Those are
Allow
good.
him to finish.
Not a
Frida,
5,000.
allow him to finish.
No, can I, and you know, I have a lot of respect for such debates, but we need decorum and we need to debate with a lot of sense, because Kenyans are watching and they want to get both sides of the story. So, one, it is impossible to rewrite history. We've had instances in this country. We had Saba Saba. We had the unfortunate circumstances of the 2007 election. We have had other post-election violences in the other years that have come. And all these are realities that will forever remain in the annals of history of this country. So it is impossible to erase that. However, we, as the generations that have come after that, have only one responsibility: to make sure that we never, ever, ever again slide back to some of the mistakes that have happened in this country, including 2007 and the unfortunate circumstances in the Gen Z protests. But from what I see in this country, a section of the state, the civil society, activists are still in the hangovers of wanting to take us back to such moments that we want to move on from. You see, while we agree that it is important to be alive to our past, it is also very important to make sure that we do not use the unfortunate circumstances that have underpinned our history to try and achieve a certain political objective. Indeed, as a country, our competition in politics must be based on certain fundamental things that the people of Kenya care about. And that is why I said, in a country where activism is now a career, commercialized 100%, it is impossible to distance tomorrow's purported demonstrations from people either wanting to do them for, one, commercial gains; number two, for political gains; number three, others want to seek relevance. And today, I have actually advised, and I have said there is nothing wrong in remembrance. It happens even in the UK. It happens all over the world. Remembrance is part of what we are as human beings. But how does remembrance and protests and certain camps within our political space intertwine? So this is why it is dangerous. And Kenyans are watching, and it's an important moment of reflection. Yes, 2024 happened. 2007 happened, Sabasaba happened, but let no political actor or anybody else want to capitalize on that to achieve selfish, self-preservation agendas as we go forward.
But what tangible changes have been put in place?
One, as we speak, and like I told you when I was starting, the processes that are supposed to follow after, for instance, what happened in 2024, the judiciary has a stake in what we call serving justice to those that were involved. And as we speak, there are certain cases in courts. What has the UDA government, led by the president, done to make sure that the judiciary does its work? It's been given whatever it needs as an arm of the government to execute its matters independently. The IPOA body that is also supposed to investigate these issues has also a constitutional mandate that it's executing. The president, or indeed the ruling party, has no stake in forcing the judiciary on the timelines and what they should do. They have a job to do that is well outlined by the Constitution, and we must distinguish the difference between constructive criticism to these processes and disruptive activism. We must make sense to the whole conversation.
However, 2 years later, some of the cases from the June 2024 demonstrations are still unresolved. Why is that?
That's why I said the question here should be, has the judiciary been enabled to do that job? Yes. Are they well funded? Yes. Do they have the correct and the requisite environment to do that job? Yes. So these processes, and like it said in law, that the wheels of justice sometimes may go slow, but eventually, at some point, we will catch up with those who are responsible. What we are saying, even as young people within the UDA party, and I have led the youth in making that statement today, that justice must be served to anybody who participated in doing these wrongs that we are talking about here today. And it is why now, while we acknowledge this part of history, we must now draw a line between politics, 2027 succession politics, and the genuine concerns of Kenyans to remember those that we lost in 2024.
Thank you very much. Let's leave it on that note. Taking a short commercial break, but we'll be back shortly. Stay with us.
Sundays at 8:30 p.m.
Good morning.
You have my rent?
Leo jioni kama tutakuwa tumelipa rent, nauza hii simu yako.
Hamna pesa. I need 3 G's to make my nails today.
Sasa hivi natuhusu aje?
Can I order now? Do you ship? Can I get blinking ones?
Mimi nilikuwa na trade. Nimewekelea kitele yangu. Kitele yangu na trade. Ikikunyuma.
Oh my God. He left me.
Nitumie ni line. Uko nje kuna wifi.
Why? Hi-Fi?
Wait, so what do we call this dish again?
I have no idea.
The cucumbers are there specifically for my beauty routine.
Tangulini kero umeka kwa beauty product.
Na ameenda.
Tunafaa tukuwe na logo yetu. Like, si ni brand already.
We won't entertain divas.
No. I'm not dealing with a man child.
Amazing. Nishapenda hii energy.
Sundays at 8:30 p.m. on TV47. Saturday at 8:30 p.m.
My father used to tell me that our hotel is the home for travelers. I guess I forgot that. Recently, it's been more of a mirror of my own ambition. Ooh, yeah. We might fail. We will probably fail. but not for a lack of trying. So for the last time and the first time, welcome to Connect In, the best experience in Eastern Central Africa and its environs.
Saturday at 8:30 p.m. on TV47. Wednesdays at 8:30 p.m.
This is a very serious place.
I see that. Surely. Hey, Nyumba.
This is the place.
Just for a few days.
Rule number 2.
Kwani Google inajua maisha yangu wewe?
That's my seat.
It's a chair. It was hers.
You're new here?
Yes.
You learned the rhythm.
This place is run by structure. Structure.
It is a system. Ni venye tu ni system haisikizi.
And what happens if something you haven't chosen enters your day?
I remove it.
That's not always going to be possible here.
Then you are going to have a problem.
Noted.
What are you planning? To escape from a resort?
Welcome back. You're watching TV47, and we are continuing our discussion in regards to demonstrations that are meant to happen tomorrow in commemoration of the June 25th, I should say, 2024, happening tomorrow. Now, Ahmed Monase, what message does a prolonged court process send to victims, families, and the public?
First, I think beyond a long process, there's been a lot of frustrations along the way, and it doesn't have to be that way. Responsibility starts with chain of command. There's been a lot of very clear video footage showing who pulled the trigger, showing triggers directly pointed at people.
Let's switch mics. I think your mic has a bit of a problem.
It's going.
Yeah.
Better.
Let's just, yeah.
So there's a lot of clear evidence showing where bullets came from and where they were fired from, and also there's responsibility that goes back to the chain of command. So with all of the video evidence, all of the CCTV available throughout CBD, through private sector, through public spaces, what has been issued, what has been dispatched, bullets that left the station, ammunition, guns, who gave orders. People don't just shoot citizens in the head or 6 times in the back or even in their communities with no direction. So chain of command also should be held accountable. If there was intentionality, if there was lack of frustration, if there was integrity through IPOA as one body that is mandated to investigate police brutality, then there should have been a much faster process to investigate the murder of a couple hundred youth. And ultimately, if justice was something that was important, if accountability was important, there already would have been arrests of those responsible. Now, many families have gone to IPOA over the past 2 years, trying to file their complaint, trying to follow up on their complaint, trying to get support. And IPOA sometimes just tells them, I don't even know when you'll come back. History, hawasaidiki. They don't get any help. They have no follow through. They don't call them back. They follow up asking about their case. It's gone nowhere. They don't collect crucial evidence, and it's trying to be buried. It's very, if as I said, kama umeshindwa na kazi, wachia wengine. If you cannot do your job, whether you're responsible for IPO, whether you're responsible for security, or whether you're the head of state, which ultimately has the responsibility to ensure all the organs, independent judiciary, all of the various parts of the state are working effectively. If that's not possible, then surely there's someone better who could be able to do that. So 2 years later, with Rex Masai's case, it's still in an inquest. And tell me now, if Ruto's daughter was accidentally murdered by a police officer, accidentally, because that's what the claim is, would it take 2 years for someone to be arrested? Or is it that the general citizenry have zero importance as compared to others and that their lives are dispensable? So the process of justice is something that's continuously been frustrated. If you look back at the 2007 post-election violence, since that wants to be referenced, and there was a case for justice and witnesses were disappeared and people went on to continue to commit other crimes and were never held accountable for some of that crimes. If you want to talk about violence and we want to talk about the goons that were dispatched onto the streets last year, about 100 Boda Bodas coming at once with whips the first time, protected by the police, escorted by the police, stealing cameras from media and journalists, whipping people, stealing phones, and then they finally retreated. And where were the police? They were sitting right around the corner right there, not intervening. The goons went back. They came back with rungus. They came back. They were beating people. They were throwing stones at people. Their faces were known. Their faces are caught on camera. As if that wasn't enough, they went back again and they came back to the CBD with machetes. Now, to talk about where there was unrest or where there was violence, or you over here saying that the protesters were destroying property and that's why they were shot. Not a single one of the people who was destroying property or who was violently assaulting the citizenry hand in hand with the police have ever been held accountable. So clearly there's no respect for rule of law. It's applied selectively, it's weaponized, and the state protects the organized violence that they sponsor and condone. So we're not blind. Kenyans are not blinded. We can be spewed narratives about what is you guys saying today? It's about remembrance. Yes, we remember, we honor, but there is absolutely no healing that can come without accountability. This is not a matter of a conversation. Rule of law should apply. And those who breached laws, the right to protest is a constitutional right. Those who destroyed property and were caught on camera, the violence of the goons, those who paid the goons, those who protected the goons, those who murdered Kenyans must be held accountable. And in the honor of all the blood that has spilled, we as citizenry will continue fighting for that. Right. And not just fighting for justice, but also for a better Kenya. Right. Because that's what this struggle, where it began, and there's still a long way to go.
All right. Brian, do you want to respond to that?
One thing that I want to say about our country, and I'm sure no one here is a foreigner or a visitor to this state of what is called Kenya. And for many times, the demonstration, the protest, and any time people march to go to the street, we have been seeing the patterns that have been very repetitive on itself. One of it, somebody must lose life. Second, a tear gas must be thrown. Third, property must be vandalized. And then the question should come, and we'll be asking ourselves, as the young people, as we move forward toward this new Kenya that we want to see, what are the interventions? What are other mechanisms that we can put on place? At the same time, when it comes to even when the justice must prevail, we must be asking ourselves, what are the things that we must do to ensure that in any time, in any day, that people go to the street, they can march? Because we have seen doctors marching. We have seen teachers marching. We have never seen even a day when the nurses are marching with the street on their issues of UHC. They have been fired with bullets. Their property have been destroyed. But in this case where the young people are going to the street, we must ask ourselves one question. Is the majority of the young people who are unemployed? And in that case, when they go to the street, some don't come with the same intention as those who go to the street for demonstrating for the issues that are pertinent for this country. So sometimes, let's not act as if this country, we came yesterday from another planet. We must speak the reality the way it is. I'm not that old. I'm maybe in my 20s. I've lived for 2 decades. My cognitive resonance on the issues of Kenyans maybe started 7 years ago. And what I have observed and what I've learned from the history is that the issues of the demonstration and protest, it has always ended in a bad way. And remember, Nairobi, it has a population of over 2 million at the moment. And the question we should be asking ourselves, when we are marching to go to the street, even for me, if there's a right and violation of issues that I feel they are not right for the young people and the Kenyans, it is okay to go for the demonstration, to hear how these grievances and the issues in the right way. But the question is, should that render another individual who is a Kenyan the property to be lost, a life to be lost? We must be having this conversation as the young people. Why is it that any time we go to demonstrate, people lose life, property get destroyed? We must be asking ourselves that question. Is it that we cross the line? Is it that the police that are one who are the rogue? Is it that the young people are the one ending up in these situations? We must be questioning those kind of things. And I'm really happy that we're having this conversation. But at the same time, when we're having this conversation, we must go deeper than the surface of the things that we are seeing.
All right, Mr. Roy, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I want to say something.
Yes.
You know, the only person who bears the greatest blame of politicizing demonstration, goonism in demonstration, policing demonstration, crime in demonstration is the government. And I'll give you an example. I'll not even go back to history. I'll come to today. Today there was a peaceful demonstration in Kisumu. No shop was broken into, no gun was shot, no tear gas was shot, no life was lost. And I want you to underline, it was in Kisumu. Kisumu is the home of demonstration. Is the, you know, that's where Raila Amolo Odinga came from. That's where ODM was backed. So if today government, and I can see my friend nodding his head, if you want a clear indication that the government is the one purely responsible for politicizing, goonism, crimes, death during demonstration, you just need to draw a comparative between what happened today in Kisumu and what would happen in Kisumu a year ago. Why? Because today as we sit here, you can hear, it is very clear, people are saying tomorrow it will be politicized. No one has seen tomorrow. People are saying people want political mileage. No one has seen tomorrow. So how do you know those things will happen tomorrow? Yet you did not know that today in Kisumu shall have a peaceful protest. The mistake number 2 that this government is doing, and it's doing it all over, is the same thing. You wake up and say, we've set aside 3 billion for this, 120 billion for this, and it is not budgeted for. It's the same thing they have said, we've set aside 2 billion for victims. It's nowhere in the budget. The victims are saying, we were not even called. And I can see you, sir, you want to react. Today, I'm not talking about history because both of you are quoting history a lot. Today, victims came out and said, we've not been called, no one has reached out to us, we don't know how this thing is. They are even begging KNHCR to intervene in that process. Because they are saying, we don't know where it starts, we don't know who's on the list, we don't know nothing about it. Justice delayed is justice denied. If today's government wanted to nip this thing, all they would have done is said, we have these people, don't make it into a story, there's 2 billion, give them, pay them out. We would not be here where we are today. But on the eve of the demonstration, the mother to Rex Masai still has no clue whether she'll ever find justice. That's number 1. And number 2, she's still in another, she has no clue whether she'll get any kind of compensation from this government. I've had my very able colleague here say that they cannot do anything to fast track the wheels of justice. And I'll ask a question. If you want to know the wheels of justice can turn quickly when the government wants to, look no further than the impeachment of Rigathi Gachagua. It was gazetted, it was said in the morning, gazetted in the evening, public participation was done at midnight, and you know, we were seeing court injunctions. We were told things were being sent to courts via email at night. Mm-hmm. So when government wants an expeditious procedure, it can do it. The government has all the ability to make something quick or to make something slow. And that's the reason, before even the ink dried in the impeachment of one Rigathi Gachagua, the current deputy president, Kindiki, was sworn in. That's how quick government can act when it wants something from its end. And I'll finish by saying, anytime the president wants a budgetary allocation, anytime he wants it, it does not take overnight. You've never had today the president say he cannot move because he does not have money to move. You've never, that's the only arm of government in this country that has never said it has lacked money. The judiciary has said we are underfunded. You know, parliament has said we are underfunded. The presidency is never underfunded. And this president is on record as being the most expensive presidency this country has ever witnessed. And I'll finish by saying, if getting money from the National Treasury is an issue in terms of compensation, I'll go back to the same UDA that said one Mr. Mkarabati can call his friends namnai, shikanisha mawaya namnai, and I come up with an empowerment of 500 million shillings. What is 2 billion to the same government? Mm-hmm. Can we balance this conversation by saying that the government is politicizing this. It's not a demonstration tomorrow. It's a commemoration. They have actually given a roadmap. We will start here. We will stop here. If you want to know the government can do that, anytime we've had international delegations in this country, KICC, and I'll go back to the day Barack Hussein Obama was in this country, we knew where he will be, start to end. And the government cordoned off that street. What is so difficult in this government saying, we are going to deploy police officers, we are going to deploy the best, sniffer dogs, everything, and we are going to accompany these people. Even ask for a list who will be in this procession. We are going to accompany these people from Jacaranda, where they want to start, and allow the mothers of these young people who were killed to lay flowers, to lay wreaths on Parliament Road. They are not saying they are going to breach Parliament. If the president did that, and I'll give him another example, when Raila Amolo Odinga the late wanted to swear himself in, the then President Uhuru Kenyatta said, kindly allow him to go to Uhuru Park, swear himself in and finish the day. By noon, we were done. Nothing happened. By noon, we were done. What is so difficult in setting such a scenario where the government says, these people have given us a start point and an end point. Can we do this thing if you want the whole day, or do you want it done by 4? And escort those mothers, escort those people who lost their brothers from where they want to be escorted from to where they want to lay their wreaths, light their candles, and allow these people to mourn. Because mourning is a process. It's not an event. It's a process. Is it so difficult for us to achieve that? Yet we can lock down this country when Emmanuel Macron is here for him to do a morning jog? And when I mention Emmanuel Macron, let me tell the president, in France, Emmanuel Macron deals with close to 20 riots daily. That's the country where people riot the most. You've never had him tear gas. So he needs to elevate himself to that G7 level.
All right.
And stop coming down to countries that don't want to mention.
All right. Thank you very much. Kariuki.
Yes, can I first inform my colleague there that it is a lie to say on national television that the victims of past protests have not been in the process of compensation. Indeed, he knows that that process has already begun, and those that have been verified, the process of compensation has already, I needed to make that clear, has already started. But I want us to say this. Protests in Kenya have never been, and by protest I mean in this angle, unless it's doctors who are protesting because they want an increase in payment, unless it's teachers who go to the streets, or union workers, or people who are taking their grievances to the labor unions. Protests that come to challenge, one, the establishment or the government, or certain policies attributed to the government. Most of those protests are never about, most times, the honest plight of the people of the Republic of Kenya. And that is why when you see certain activists in this country capitalize on a very important issue like a tax debate, to an extent that we lose the bigger picture of what was to be achieved in those protests. It tells you that there will never be a time when the core business of why people go to the streets to air their grievances will be honest. That's why we must be very cautious. And we can sit here and lie to ourselves that people are not in business here, that people are not pushing their personal interests. People who go to the streets, like in 2024, after a few days and say Ruto must go, they are posing a political challenge to the president of Kenya. And the hidden hand behind that are people who were hell-bent to cause a regime change. It has nothing to do with the honest view of Kenyans that the tax debate needs to address their concerns. So going forward, as a country, if you want to go and challenge President William Ruto, you have a chance through the democratic way. Go register as a voter, campaign, and wait for 2027. But you have no business saying that you want to mobilize and go to State House and remove the president, hiding behind the Gen Z protest. That hypocrisy needs to end. And that is why I began by saying that we have now known these games. We have seen what has been disguised as peaceful protest. But sometimes the actions that come out of it reflect actions of people who have no interest at all in the change that they speak when they stand before the public. This is politics and pure politics. And I am happy that the team led by James Orengo already declared that they are going to join the protest tomorrow. And so we know now it is no longer about the commemoration of the Gen Zs. It's about James Orengo, Linda Mwananchi, and their cohorts who want to capture power in this country. And thus, it is why, with that understanding, they must now be seen as political actors, and the response from our side to the likes of those who have said from that team, Linda Mwananchi, that they are going to join those protests. We now know that we are dealing with political animals. Now, it is not about the Gen Z commemoration. This is pure politics.
Manase Ahmed, are you in business? Have you been funded?
I have no job. I've actually paid myself to buy some roses tomorrow. You can check my bank accounts. You could check my employer. The last job I did was a coordination of an event. So before you come with allegations as to where people are funded, who they're funded by, their personal interests, their political interests, you should also do a little bit of research. I believe you sit here as a paid government propagandist because what is your interest in UDA? Is it commercial? Is it financial? Is it political? Is it relevance? So ultimately, I don't think you're sitting here as a servant of the people or a volunteer for the UDA government. So before you come with allegations as to people's interests, who are you to decide who should mourn, how they should mourn? Who are you to speak on behalf of 55 million Kenyans, how they want to protest, what they have the right to do, what they don't have the right to do? You do not represent the voice of the people. You're not a messiah that believes that you know why everyone is coming out to the streets, what they stand for. If you want to talk about a tax debate, this government, this democracy would function if it actually functioned as per the rule of law and the Constitution, which provides for public participation in clear processes as to how laws should be passed, how bills should be passed, how the citizenry should be included in decision-making processes. Rose Gitungiri, who created software to be able to help the government do their job that they're clearly incapable of or have no interest in hearing from the public, to allow people to submit their own memoranda on the finance bill, was arrested and detained for what? For supporting with technology. She should have been hired to help in this process. So when people do not have a voice, when the members of parliament, when their elected representatives are not representing their views and their needs and listening to them and creating opportunities for them, and rather than addressing issues that sustain poverty, they're actually sustaining poverty itself so it can be weaponized, so it can be manipulated. So when the citizenry feel like they're not being heard, they're not being listened to, they're not being catered for, cared for, protected by the state, which we pay to do that job. It's not a favor, it's our right and it's their job. That's when they decide, maybe perhaps we should try another method. Let's go to the street with placards and apply some public pressure as to what we want to see, what we don't agree with. Maybe we'll then be listened to. So we have every single right to use every avenue available to us within our constitution to be heard, to push for our needs, to push for our rights. And we'll continue to do it until we are heard. And if we're not happy with our president, we also have the right to feel that way.
Frida, can national healing occur when families are still waiting for answers?
Before I answer that, I have a right of reply. He has said that Linda Wananchi is doing this as political, as pure politics, and that we are trying to pose a challenge to Ruto. Let me say that Ruto has already challenged himself. He has a lot of challenges right now. And before I continue, I want to apologize for whatever might happen tomorrow, the commemoration. If it's a crime according to the government, let me apologize. And I hope they'll forgive me the same way Duale has been forgiven. We should be able to extend forgiveness to everyone. It's a forgiving state. And as for the challenges and challenging Ruto, we are not the ones that told him to tell people he will set up 25,000 Wi-Fi hotspots around the country. That is him sabotaging himself with lying. When this man sits here and says that commemoration is pure politics, I genuinely understand where he's coming from. He's coming from a school of thought where a president can stand up and say something that is a pure lie without blinking. By the way, it's something they need to teach us. How to lie without shame. That is a course I'm willing to pay to attend, because they seem to have mastered it. They cannot imagine. I understand where by the way, I get them. And I genuinely have come to a point where I enjoy their rhetoric. Don't take it seriously, because obviously they don't mean it when they say those things. I've come to learn that for them, it's impossible to fathom that someone can come out and speak against issues in this country purely from a patriotic stand. Because they are not doing it for free. Whatever they are doing, they're not doing it for free. So they cannot imagine that someone else can do it for free. How is it possible that you care about good governance? Over here, we are using government public funds carelessly. How can you do that without someone sponsoring you? They are not understanding that for us, it is about the essence of this nation. It is about whether or not tomorrow, when Ruto has gone, when Frida has gone, whether our children will be proud of our country. It is about whether or not people will respect Kenya as a country and look at the president's word as a pledge that can be kept and not just a campaign promise. So I see what he means when he says that we are getting paid to go on the streets. And he's saying that as a confession. And we are going to take that confession and pray that you heal. This is a praying government, by the way. I hear they prayed for drought, and we've never had a drought since, was it 2024? So I hope they pray out bad governance. I hope, by Jovi, I hope that you pray so that next time whoever has been pulling guns on Gen Zs may suddenly get salvation. But just know that while you pray, we are going to ask for justice. While you pray and cleanse water in Karen, doesn't work for Nairobi River, but it will work in Karen. While you pray, citizens of goodwill are going to go and say Rex Masai died, and because he died, we want someone to be held accountable for that. Not because someone is paying us, but because we know the pain of losing a child that cared about this country so much so that he left his house to go and protest. Let me say this. They have said that there is a hidden hand. In Kenya, in the colonial times, there was this governor that was called Sir Evelyn Baring. And when Mau Mau fighters were in the forest fighting and all that, you see, the history of this country will tell you about today. We cannot forget the history. During Mau Mau times, there were people that were called Kamatimos. Kamatimo were the lowest enforcers of colonialism, British colonialism. They were given spears, and they would go door to door telling people, respect the British rule, respect. And it is always the people at the bottom of the barrel in enforcing bad governance that are very bitter, talking about, you people must be paid, because they are receiving very small rewards at the bottom, and they're wondering, when do I ever get to be the one that embezzles funds? And so when people are speaking against bad governance, they truly cannot imagine it. And they are the Kamatimos of today. The Kamatimos didn't die. They have descendants. They have children who gave birth to children and to children. And today, if you look at the language they are using, things like respect the president. You heard him talk about decorum. Someone will kill you and tell you, let me teach you how to cry for your child. They will not even question the fact that someone was murdered. They will question the way you are crying, because it's an easier thing to challenge than to challenge the weaknesses in government that are causing us to be in this situation in the first place. Lastly, as I continue, as I finish, this government is asking us to manage their killing addiction. They are telling us, please don't come out because I will compulsively kill you. Don't come out, I can't help it. They are saying, if you come out, you will threaten me. Even if it's a commemoration, they are calling it a protest. Do you see the difference in language? Once you shift the language, you are assigning not just titles, but meaning to these things that can lead to people being
That's not
mad.
what the government is saying, Frida.
He said it. He called it a protest.
This is what I meant. Let me clarify. We have seen political actors, Linda Mwananchi to be specific, and we have information that they are mobilizing for tomorrow. And the Cabinet Secretary for Interior has given information to that effect. As to whether they will commit some atrocities and want to blame it on the government is something that we will need to
Right of response, that's laughable. Is it the same CS that could not tell the difference between goons and protesters that told you that information? Because that's laughable.
You see, the work of the opposition people, the job of the opposition people is sometimes to say things without having the burden of having to prove.
It was on the. Did you watch it?
So it's easy for her to throw allegations here.
No, it's not an allegation. You can Google it.
The truth is, as all this happens, and I had somebody say that the president is not doing what he's supposed to be doing. As tomorrow happens, and we acknowledge the family's right to participate in the remembrance of their family members. It happens at a time when the Kenyan public has a growing confidence in the leadership of President William Ruto. Today, the president, for the first time, is doing things never seen in this country. He's building 10,000 kilometers of road. He's building 250 markets across the country. He's building 25 stadiums in this country. He is creating over 500,000.
Don't use the wrong word.
He's building 500,000 units of houses.
Because if we talk at the same time, we won't be able to understand each other.
The president is delivering on his promises.
Let's listen to one another.
Now you're going into infrastructure.
The president,
infrastructure.
Yes,
and life.
Ladies and gentlemen, please let us listen to one another.
The president,
it's going to be easier for us to understand each other.
The president is building an international conference center soon.
In 30 seconds or less.
We have a new. We have the extension of the railway from Naivasha to Malaba. We have a growth rate of about 5.3%. The president is employing 100,000 teachers.
All right.
For the first time in building 20,000 classrooms.
Moving softly. June 24 protests were notable for the absence of traditional opposition leaders. How did that shape the movement?
We have been, since before, the team from Nyanza, as my friend has said, that Kisumu used to be headquarters of the demonstration. And Raila used to go to demonstration to fight for the rights of the people, and even to protest the results from the IBC and the ECK. So, and when we came to 2024, there were certain, or the number of the young people who were in the street to protest on the issues of the finance bill and the issues of tax, and to have a conversation around how can we have a budget that is very considerate to the citizens. And of course, by that virtue, then it means the young people came out knowing what they want. But through that process, again, we had a challenge where it was infiltrated by the goons. And this goon ran havoc, they destroyed the property. And that again, it gave an insight to our country in terms of the security mechanism, the handling of the protesters, the handling of the goons, and even how the politician used to perceive the people. Because at that time, they knew the people has the power. The people can decide to go out of the street and challenge any bill that comes to the parliament in the way that they deem it perfect for them. But again, under the way the constitution prescribed on itself. So that was a real shift on itself. But again, on what we have learned as a country is that we don't want to go back there. We must progress, and we must have a progress that is very markable. And the dots that we are connecting is to ensure that we have a country that, in one way or the other, we have a country that everyone is very patriotic, and the issues that come into our place, whether as the young people, whether as the old, we must ensure that on issues when Kenyans are concerned and becoming bitter on issues that they don't want, we must ask ourselves one question. We must be listenful. No matter the stage that you are in this life, because we know life is very fickle, and in that situation, whether you're a doctor, whether you're a teacher, whether you're a student, whether you're a mother, the most consequential thing you can do to anyone is to have a listening ear.
All right.
And that is what we have learned. And we must always listen to the people. And we are doing that.
Muriithi, question for you. The CS Interior earlier today alleged that some political leaders are mobilizing criminal gangs to infiltrate the demonstrations. How serious are those claims?
Well, he's a Minister of Interior, and he's privileged to get raw intelligence. So I cannot debunk what he said or say it is truth or not. But what I can say about the current affairs of things, and I'll go back because you've mentioned the Minister of Interior, I think we need to ask ourselves, where did the rain start beating us, and what can we do moving forward to correct this issue? Because one of the things that the minister today will say is that people in the opposition are mobilizing goons. And people in the opposition will say government is mobilizing goons. So you end up with the citizens in the middle. They don't know who to listen to because both of these people have following. But I'll go back and try and prescribe a solution to the problem that Kenya is facing today. When the current president, William Ruto, went and with the Tanga group, and I remember him in Eldoret, I don't know where he was, and he said, this habit of raising taxes overnight, you don't understand the damage you are doing to the economy. The then president, Uhuru Kenyatta, had just done a handshake with Raila Amolo Odinga. But what did he do? He went to that Bomas, the one that was demolished, and called all stakeholders there, including the vice president, who was saying that this government is actually going after him and the people. And he said, let's have a discussion around this. And the then Minister of Interior was in that cabinet, in that meeting in the Bomas of Kenya. We listened to people from both sides. That is how you bring a country together. If today I was asked, and if today my two friends here, who I believe one is UDA Youth and the other one is the National Youth, if they have the president's ear, instead of having this back and forth between the president and the citizens, the president should call for a meeting and say, here are the parents of the people who lost their lives during the June 2024. Here is the church to be in the middle of all this, and here is government, and here is all arms of government. Let us have a discussion. It's not going to be rosy, but we are going to have a discussion. And I remember in that, people say that the presidency of William Ruto was cemented on that day. Because through the booing and through everything, the president allowed him to have his say. What is so difficult for him to extend the same grace? Because, I think my friends here might be young and not to remember. The James Orengo you're talking about has been in demonstrations from the 80s. The reason we have a multi-party state country today called Kenya is because of James Agri Orengo. They led demonstration to ask for multi-party state. They later led another demonstration to ask for the repeal of Section 2A. Indeed, I can tell my friend here, Kariuki, that if it was not for James Orengo, maybe today William Ruto would not be president because we would still be in the KANU days. And William Ruto, through the KANU hierarchy, he would nowhere be to ascend into power. So as we discuss these things, let's not pivot on one side and ask ourselves, I want to defend government all the way. How do we start bringing this country together? Because tomorrow, the president can wake up and say, allow these people to go there, and the next day, he can call now for a discussion with all parties involved and say, we are government, we are saying we are going to compensate, we acknowledge mistakes were done. can we have a conversation on how to move this country forward? Otherwise, we are going to have a situation repetitively until this government is maybe removed out of government. You can imagine how next year will look like, because it's an election year. We have Gen Zs who, in that Bomas discussion, the then president said, these young people are a ticking time bomb and they are going to blow up. And indeed, they have blown up. So instead of telling us, when people come and say, I lost my son, the answer you want to give is, I've built you a market. How does a market and my son, how do you put them together? That kind of attitude is what is making people angry in this country. Because instead of listening to us, you are talking at us. Instead of us saying, this is, sir, you are choking us. Can we have a listening government? Because a government is supposed to be for the people, by the people. It should not be the other way around, where a government lords over the people. There's no day a road and a life can never be, because you never build a road if there's no life to be on that road. Those are some of the things we need to ask ourselves and change the conversation a little bit. Well, who is funding who, and who is planning who, and who is getting political mileage? I mean, how do you build a road and you want political mileage from that? After all, the taxpayer paid for that road. So everybody here is a politician looking for political mileage. What do the citizens want? Is the question that we should be asking today.
Frida, have Gen Z protesters fundamentally altered the way political mobilization happens in Kenya?
I think political mobilization in Kenya is a very interesting subject, because the government of the day, like now the situation we have right now, they are saying they have information that there is mobilization. I have the privilege of coming from Kisii County, and I have seen one such an example of political mobilization amongst the youth. And it is very clear in my experience that government has been using a lot of money in mobilizing Gen Zs, and it's really an insult. By the way, when the Gen Zs mobilized by themselves, just online spaces, especially in the protest, the 2024 protest, political mobilization shifted during that time, because it was pushed purely by spirit, purely by patriotism. And for the first time, we saw people tweeting, tutakuwa hii area at this time. Hakuna mtu, hakukuwa na kiongozi. In fact, we were saying we were partyless, we were leaderless, we were tribeless, we were all these things. We were mobilizing purely with raw spirit and just out of the love for our country. But then if you look at the other side of the divide, it is there were videos, especially during the president's tour in Gusii region, Gen Zs were being bribed. Walikuwa wanapewa pesa 1,000. In fact, sahi kwa constituency ya Zari Janda, I'm sorry to go that way, but I'm just giving an example. Kwa constituency yake sahi kuna politicians wanalia. Wanasema haki umeharibu soko. Umeharibu soko, because they have all this money at their disposal, and they're looking at a generation ya watu wenye wako jobless, they are frustrated, they are depressed. And so for every political rally, the mobilization is pegged on, I'm going to give you this money in exchange for you screaming, ukiniona, ukifanya hivi. But I want to tell people that 2027 tutajua mbivu na mbichi. Watu wamenyamaza mostly because of fatigue, but the people are tired. The first time tulikuwa very sensitive. Tukasikia kitu imehappen, watu wanashtuka, wanasema I have to go. The second time, the third time, sasa tumepea Ruto macho hivi. We are waiting for 2027. The mobilization itatutoa hapo kwa nyumba ni zile shida tuko nazo. Chakula hakuna, 6.7% inflation kwa hii country, na bado wanatuambia kuhusu Talanta Stadium, wanatuambia kuhusu barabara and all that. Ile kitu itatoa watu kwa nyumba 2027 will be to change the situation in this country. Na watu watajua that pesa yao haitawasaidia.
Did the government genuinely, listen to the concerns raised by the young people?
Yes, the government has done that. And part of why we are having this conversation today about first the acknowledgement by the government that there has been past mistakes. And you had the president say, for somebody who is pursuing political correctness, they would never admit that in the first place that there were mistakes that were made. But I want to correct my co-panelist here that inflation is going high by 6 points. She said 6 point something %. I want to tell her that it's under this government that inflation came down from 9%, 8.9%, all the way up to 5% for the first time. This this was well marked by the reduction in the cost of basic commodities like maize flour. And it's just about a simple calculation of subsidy in fertilizer, which was 7,500, it's 2,500. The reason why my constituents in Muranga County tomorrow will not even think of asking their neighbors or even themselves going out to do demonstration is because 5 years ago, my village, a certain old man, we call him Fundi, was paid 50 shillings for a kilo of cherry of coffee. Last week, at Karurumo Cooperative Society, new prices of 150 per kg for cherry was announced. This is part of the reason why tomorrow, and you will be checking to see across the country, the demonstrations by the opportunists who want to hijack a genuine feeling of families that lost their loved ones will flop, and they are going to flop.
Your response to those remarks?
I mean, you should really be ashamed of yourself because you seem to have no remorse, no sympathy, no empathy, no acknowledgement. Are you a father? Are you a father? Okay. Assume it's maybe your sister that was out on the streets last year acknowledging, commemorating, honoring, and state-sponsored sexual assault. There was gang rape that was ordered on the protesters last year to try to disperse them. Did that affect, it affected women in the community? There was orders for violence against women because this government wanted to send a message that protests were dangerous. So if women were stabbed, it would have helped to show the country that, you know, that protests were dangerous. I have spent days and hours. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I have spent hours and days.
What are your sources?
There's been multiple. It came through a lot of the human rights defenders organizations last year. Before we went out to the streets, they were giving us very high level warnings and really wanted us to avoid it because there had been multiple sources of information that there was potentially going to be a stabbing of women because that it was something that was going to lead to de-escalation of protests before June 25th. I think this was on June 18th or 20th after Albert Ojwang was murdered. And that was the same day that we actually went out to the streets. First, were met by a lot of whips around 10 a.m. when we were 40 people just walking. You could look at the footage and see whether it was violent or not. 100 of boda bodas with people on them coming in with whips. Left, came back in with rungus. And I say this graciously, but it was a really devastating state, seeing them walk around CBD and smash random people over the head, and then came back in with machetes. And there was a lot of cases of gang rape that evening, and there had already been information that there was going to be sexual assault and organized sexual violence against women. So this is the type of organized response, and if our security organs cannot stop a gang of 50 or 100 violent civilians coming in when they have all of these military, all of these police, they have water cannons, they have tear gas, they have, if they need, to use restraint, they're incapable of stopping organized violence, but they shoot protesters. So I think it's just really shameful because it's very clear that perhaps you've never lost a loved one or you feel no shame that blood has been spilt all over the streets. I've been in court with Mama Rex maybe 15 times because that case is an important precedent for other cases. And she's ill. She's ill. Seeing her and her brother, her husband and Rex's son in court the other day, dragging on for 6 hours while all of these denials of whether or not he was even shot by a police officer 2 years later go on. Another mother from Nakuru who talks about how she spent her 20 years carrying bananas on her head to get 10 cents to send her son to school. And that son, that breadwinner, her other son is autistic, has been completely taken away from her life. And so to deny, to dismiss the pain that they're feeling is really shameful. It's inhumane. And I believe that's why not only will we continue to stand with them in court, in home, in life, we're going to continue to recognize that non-repetition of these things is completely, it's nothing tangible at the moment. There's no way it's tangible when there can't even be acknowledgement that there was wrongdoing, much less accountability for that wrongdoing. And when the blood continues to be shed over and over again over an Ebola protest, people don't agree with a decision that is going to put their citizenry and themselves at harm, so you kill them. So we have a long way to go, and it's 2 years, not a single police officer has been arrested, murdering innocent, unarmed people, protesters who are not a threat. If you look at a lot of the footage, they posed no threat to the police, is a crime, and people must be held accountable.
All right, thank you for that. Murithi, and let's be mindful of time. What does healing actually look like after a national crisis as we wind up?
Healing after a national crisis looks like, first of all, the government giving a listening ear and asking itself, why do we have a pattern of repetition? For me, the president has a golden opportunity to reset this country if he chooses to rise to that occasion and say, to me, I have the disposal of the NYS, the GSU, the Kenya Police. These people have given you a roadmap of where they will start, the roads they will use, and where they want to terminate that procession. I would ask of him to say, can you give these people a clear passage from start to end? Keep the goons away, let this be a solemn procession, and if truly we really want to take heed of this moment, I would ask government on that day, have all members of parliament present to meet these people because they are their representatives, and shake hands and say, never again shall we get to this point. Because that is what these people are seeking closure. Give it to them. Let's not react to a mosquito bite with a hammer, because that is what this government has been doing. To every small thing, it is hammering them. I hope that tomorrow, if the president is listening, if the Minister of Internal Security is listening, call your people to order and tell them, when these people get to parliament, can you be there to receive them? And tell them it will never happen again over our watch. And I can tell you for sure, Kenya will see something different. And Kenya will start healing from that.
Thank you very much. Brian, your parting shot in less than a minute.
This conversation has been good. Let me appreciate my fellow young people. And as a country, the way we are moving forward, I think it's very important that we be very cognizant of the issues that are happening. And it's good, again, to put measures into place. And I'm very sure that the police IG is good that he had even mentioned that he's going to provide that security for the people who are going to commemorate the journey that we had since June 25th, 2024. And again, remember that in case of any disruption, at the same time, it was mentioned that, again, security will be so tight on that cases, and anybody who disrupted the norm, it will meet with the law in a manner that is which correct. And again, I want to appreciate my young people. Let's still have these conversations so that we can shape the new Kenya that we want.
Oh, thank you very much. Frida, your final remarks as we wind up in 1 minute or less.
Yeah, winning this argument of whether or not it's the right government or all that, we can have a conversation and win those arguments. But at the end of the day, there are obvious casualties to this whole conversation. The first one being obviously the lives that were lost, and the second one being democracy, the rule of law. Those are not things we're willing to lose as a country. And if it means losing an argument in order for us to restore the rule of law, respect for the Constitution and all that, it's a price worth paying, because we cannot afford what we paid in 1963, 1930s all the way to 1963. It's a very, very expensive affair for this country. So my prayer, and to the Linda Mwananchi people that are going to join the people to commemorate the loss of the Gen Zs, I want Mama Rex Masai, Mama Kirato, Mama Shiramba, Mama Onyango, Mama Denzel, and all their relatives to know that we cannot really replace them. We never will, and we really don't want to, because even if we were to replace them today, it wouldn't change the fact that something broke in this country. We are only hoping and praying that finally we are able to each bring a building block to this conversation so that we can be able to restore the dignity of the people of this country, so that we can be able to restore trust between government and its people.
All right, thank you very much. Wanase Ahmed, your final remarks? In a minute or less, please.
My call to action would be for all Kenyans. Every single Kenyan has a duty and a responsibility to take pride in their country, to do our best to leave it better than we found it. It's the rent that we pay for living on this planet, to stand up for each other, to stand up for the freedoms that have been long fought for, to stand up for our rights. They're not favors, it's not handouts. To protect the rule of law. If we look at what's happening with the region, with mass abductions and tortures and extrajudicial killings, and a president who changes the constitutional term limit, changes the maximum age, gets away with murder, we don't want our country to also go in that similar direction. So the time is now. The responsibility is for all of us, and everybody should stand up in the way that they know how to. And until we have the respect of not only our national law, regional law, international law, we risk slipping into government perpetuated chaos. So may we work together to keep building the Kenya that we deserve.
All right, thank you very much. Kariuki Ngujiri, your final remarks?
Yes, that while this happens, we also wish to pray for the families that lost their loved ones in the protest war. And we wish them well, and we hope that justice will be found. And at the same breath is a call to my fellow young people that for us to make sure that we protect the future of this country, we must remember that there are countries that have gone down because of choices they made. And today, they are refugees in their own land. I am only asking the youth of this country, let us never get there. Let us be responsible young Kenyans who stick to the rule of law and recognize the rights and the freedoms of each and every Kenyan citizen. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Asante sana. Thank you very much. Indeed, an important conversation, and one that will undoubtedly continue beyond tonight. Many thanks to my guests for joining us, and thank you for being part of this discussion as well. My name is Peter Gamau. Our sign language interpreter is Catherine Simaloy. Have yourself a good night. Until next time, be blessed.